What is going on YouTube? It is the Troll King, just giving you a quick little kind of apology video here. If you do watch these videos and you watch them all the way through, me and Corey go real long because we're good buds. Bodybuilding, we're fans, we like talking about it. But right at the end, if you do watch it to the end, I have to kind of end it super abruptly. I'm just all of a sudden like, hey, well, we might make this two-parter. My wife, if sometimes if it looks like I'm looking down at my phone, super unprofessional, and I apologize for that. But, I kind of get leave to do these things on my days off. But my days off are days where she gets to do things and, she gives me these hours for the podcast. And I just pay attention to the phone just in case something happens. And my young son, Riker Zadrunas Foster, the light of my life, had a bit of a blowout going to the bathroom wise that she definitely needed some help with. And I should have just said that on the podcast because I have a kid now and he would have understood. But that's what happened there. That's why I ended it so abruptly. But we are going to do a part two. I mean, we're just something we both really enjoy doing. So, I mean, we'll just keep popping these out. I got family, very small, just my sister and her husband, our two kids coming in for Thanksgiving. So we're good with the mandates as far as how many people from how many households can be in a private gathering. We're not going anywhere, yada, yada, yada. But we're going to be working on a couple really special Troll King cooks. I'm going to have her do like a guest spot with me because we're going to make a big old brunch. And we're going to make a relatively unconventional Thanksgiving dinner. And I am so excited about it. And after that, there's more reviews, more with Curtis. And I think I might, I've changed a couple things up training-wise. So I think I might actually upload some workouts and, show some of that. Just keep it going. Keep the momentum. Try to get some momentum back. I don't know. But anyway, so that's what happened with that. I just wanted to kind of give an apology for that, for my unprofessionalism, on top of all the other unprofessionalism. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you. All right. We're back at it. Troll King back here with the Cobra. Talking about news. Talking about news, talking about advice you didn't ask for. Just talking about it all.
All the juicy stuff.
Oh yeah, that's how we got to do things.
All that juicy bodybuilding goodness that you've been waiting for.
So I figured.
So how you been, man?
Good, dude. I've been working out at home a lot more. I've fallen back in love with that because the gym right by me that I don't even mind name dropping that Snap is just grimy. It's just straight dirty. Someone literally they have. Those water fountains they have where it's like the water fountain and they have the little picture of a bottle you put in front of that sensor and it gives you the water and it has a little number that runs of, well, the filter on
how many bottles of water you're saving.
Yeah. There's a little filter light indicating, I would assume, obviously, how in what working order the filter's in. It's been red for like over a month. And finally somebody posted a note over it, like 40 days since filter went red and the dude took it down. The manager guy's like never there.
That's not even expensive to fix. Like the whole unit brand new isn't even expensive. So I can imagine the filter can't be that much
at all. One of the two bathrooms hasn't had soap for like a week and a half, and I'm just it ain't.
When you said it was grimy, I was like, oh, a nice nasty grimy gym. Like, oh, I was thinking old school. No, like grimy, the bad grimy.
Yeah, grimy, like just straight dirty. Not like it ain't Metroflex. Although I'm sure Metroflex is also like that. But so I have to go there for leg days just because I don't really have the poundage available to me here to really get what I need out of a good pressing movement. I mean, for 250, that could be a good squat, but I don't have any kind of a rack, so I have to get it to my shoulders by like a power clean.
Yeah.
I could do it. It ain't pretty.
That's CrossFit at that point, bro. That's CrossFit.
Like I don't need that in my life. So
that's what I was doing during COVID, man. Never again. I hated that shit.
Yeah. Well, I can dig it. I like having the boom box, and I got it to where we have a little bouncer seat for Riker who can sit down there. Like I can go down there and lift weights, and Beth can go do whatever she needs to do, and I can have him down there. I'm not going to sit here with wishful thinking. Like he likes metal, but he doesn't mind it. It doesn't make him cry.
He probably does, man. I know. Mike Alexander. His son likes Oh Sleeper, which is metal, man.
Nice.
He puts that on for him to fall asleep. So yeah, I can see that.
But so Like last week, I think we started this new thing where we start with a little coach's corner type stuff where we ask questions, certainly things that come up to me as I've been doing this cut more and more. Finally, my body's getting the message. I woke up at 2:55 today, so
Oh, nice, good.
I'm making my way down. But so obviously,
making your way downtown.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you get down, when you start dieting, not too hard. I mean, I don't want to sit here and sound like it's poverty. I mean, you got me with a little bit of carbs on workout days. It's certainly not bad, but you get to where, you start watching some food porny type stuff, and you start.
You're already at food porn stage. I hear you.
I remember when I was prepping for the show, everybody at work was like, "Why are you doing this to yourself?" And it's weird because it's not like I watch I watch Great British Bake Off. I watch all the Food Network competition baking shows. Have started getting uploaded to Hulu, so I've been just straight basic bitch watching that, loving it every second of it. But I don't watch that stuff and like crave desserts. It just makes me happy for some reason to watch them do it. But it starts to. I remember I was watching I think it was Luke Sando video, R.I.P. obviously, because for a while he works with Aceto, Grimes worked with Aceto, and Grimes Grimes took credit for it and made a T-shirt for it. But Jose was talking about that muffin pump like 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
But Luke Sando
made the shirt, but that's Aceto's thing for sure.
Yeah, and Luke was big on he was just eating
that cookie. Yeah,
and he was eating them, and he as he was getting more and more into his prep and dieting, he said like in an interview with Fua, like I kept eating it because
he was like, oh well, he's like, when do you take it out? When does the cookie come out? He was like, I hope Chris doesn't see this.
Chris didn't take it out. So.
He hasn't taken the cookie out.
But Chris was like, he knew the whole time, and it was just the way Luke put it was like, this is just. Everybody gives him shit like, well, this is a cookie, man. What are you doing? This is prep. And he's like, listen, guys, this is just a carb. These are just carbs and a little bit of fats. I happen to digest it really well. And that's kind of that. So I guess what's your attitude toward, I mean, we're almost bordering on if it fits your macros type things. Like certain people, like I know for the longest time, man, for months now, you've had it to where after my workout, I can have a protein shake and I get a little packet of Little Bites. And whether between that or, a muffin, like if Beth happens to make muffins, it doesn't bloat me. Like I don't get a big problem with it. But yeah, if I eat like cookies or anything like super sweet, like cake or ice cream, I start to bloat. So is a calorie just a calorie, or does it come down to individual, what people digest better? Where do you draw the line on that in terms of like what you let people have?
A calorie is never a calorie, especially with me, never. As far as what I choose to use with people, I use myself as a guinea pig, man, and I go off of what works with you guys. So I noticed that like Rice Krispie treats or cereal or Little Bites or like you said, or even fruit is always like a real safe bet too, to go with the protein shake or around the workout. But timing is why you can get away with these things. I don't think Luke was waking up first thing in the morning and having a cookie. That was probably a post-workout or pre-workout thing.
Yeah, it's usually a pre-workout.
Yeah, I think timing has a lot to do with it, and what you have it with has a lot to do with it. If it's mainly carbs and it has a good amount of sugar, depending on your metabolism, that's perfectly fine, especially when you have it. If it's pre-workout, that sugar is going to be immediately used. It doesn't get stored because you use it right away. But if you use carbs and fat together, then you can run into trouble. So if I give you something that doesn't really have that much fat, but it's got plenty of carbs and sugar, if you have it around the workout, you're probably going to be okay. Especially something quick digesting, because of course, post-workout, the first half of that, or I'll say it's arbitrary, the first little bit of those carbs, or most of those carbs, however much you have, goes to replenishing what you just lost during that workout. So you kind of have a cushion. And when you train as hard as you do, or you train as hard as Luke, or you train as hard as myself, then yeah, you kind of need that. You kind of want that injection of carbs and glucose back.
Yeah.
So you would rather have something like that than almost nothing at all. especially if you're trying to maintain muscle, because carbs are protein sparing. But as far as choosing what to use, I go by the feedback, man, week to week. That's why it's important. Any digestion issues? If so, what? How was your performance? Hey, if you say, hey, I didn't really, I wasn't really digesting food well, or my workout was crap, might switch some things around. Or I might ask you how you like the little bites. You're telling me they didn't bloat you. We got to keep those things in, man. Or if we try something else, I noticed pancakes work really well with people as well. Might use honey rather than, obviously syrup. Some people use sugar-free syrup, but, fake sugar's not the greatest for gut health. Still not a big deal, but Rice Krispie treats, fruit, these things. I mean, Rice Krispie treats are rice. We eat rice all day. So if I throw Rice Krispie treats in there, rice, sugar, easy, boom. Almost everyone's gonna digest that well. Rice cereal, like Chex or something like that, that's rice. You know what I mean? And if you're using something like almond milk, which is not heavy on fats, I want to say it's got some carbs in it,
Right.
you're perfectly fine. You're good to go.
Yeah.
So I hope that answered it. I know I kind of went all over the place.
No, definitely, because it definitely. So that's the thing with I guess prep, or the parts where bodybuilding is not fun. Looking good is fun. Training is always fun. When you're bulking, it's people think it's fun because you're eating a lot of food, but when you're eating a lot of clean food, it can obviously be really tough. But the main two things where it gets crappy are the diet near the end, or when you're cutting, and the cardio, which leads into the next part I was going to ask, because you see some, like obviously, I'm an open class bodybuilder. That's where a lot of my effort and that's where all of my attention really goes to. And obviously everybody knows Ronnie was the king. And Ronnie Coleman, with the way he ate, famously did 2 hours of cardio a day, like just an hour on the stepper and then another hour on the stepper. But then nowadays you've got, these big top tier dudes like an Ian and like a James who are talking about a week out, I'm still doing 20 casual minutes on the bike. Nothing too crazy. And, the diet's kind of, so I just wonder with those, their workload is obviously super high, which is what it takes, which is, Ronnie ate the way he ate, 8 pounds of chicken with KC Masterpiece barbecue sauce and French fries because he was doing 2 hours of cardio.
Right.
And everyone knows how Ronnie Coleman trained. It obviously just destroyed his body, how hard he was training. So where do you draw that line in terms of at what point? I noticed when we did our show, a few days before the show, we cut cardio because that's where you start to see excessive. Because I am not like a Ronnie. No matter how hard I train,
no one is, man. Don't feel bad.
I gotta suffer. I gotta do the cardio, or the body fat just will not come off me. My body, it's got those sticky hands. When it starts feeling hungry, it just wants to grab on every little ounce. So I gotta do the cardio. But at what point do you get to where, all right, now this is starting to your legs are losing definition, you're flattening out, which, you flatten out to a degree, but obviously there's that too far. Where do you draw that line, and how do you look at cardio, across the board with your clients?
You draw the line whenever you start to lose muscle. And that just goes off of checking pictures. And as far as the difference between, and I say that because there's no concrete answer, because it comes down to metabolic adaptation. Like you're talking about some guys that are doing 20 minutes of cardio or doing steps versus 2 hours of cardio, or even huge guys with a huge workload like Akeem, he's doing what, two to three, sometimes. I think he might have said before, but metabolic adaptation and genetics, man, come into play as well. But when everybody's got a high workload and stuff like that. Oh, and also, how was the off season handled? How big do these people get in the off season? You got to think some guys I guess if you do want to mention Ian, I'm not sure how much cardio he's doing, or guys like James Holland's have you ever seen him out of shape?
No, there's always I know Ian especially always has abs.
So what kind of there's no need for him to do as much cardio as somebody that handles their off season a little bit differently. and guys that are eating, upwards of 1,000 grams of carbs. There's guys that can barely eat at all, and I go back to Akeem just because he won that, Chicago Pro recently, but I just watched him talking to, I think, Dusty Hanshaw, It's Just Bodybuilding, whatever. He's eating, or that Muscle and Strength, thing he did the day of eating. He's eating like 5 ounces and a cup of rice, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Neither one of us could get away with that. So that's, it kind of is what it is. As far as burying yourself with cardio, I try to get as much out of the least. So if we can get away with steps, and while feeding you, then that's what we're going to do. I want to keep food as high as possible while, I guess keeping the cardio as low as possible. And I'll try to edge, I want to keep the food in there as long as I can, but some people you just can't. Some people just have to suffer. And there's no real nice way of saying it. It is what it is for some people, man. It's whether you're willing to put in the work or not. You know what I mean? And like for you, it sucks. For me, it used to suck, and now it doesn't. Now I can do no cardio and eat, 10 ounces and 2.5 cups of rice like this last week, 7 times a day, and lose 2 pounds and be pissed, and it doesn't make any sense, It is what it is,
I want to get to that point. I
Oh,
don't really
man,
want to get to that.
I'm tired. I'm sick of it. Like I would rather be in prep. I feel like I could go 72 hours without eating anything and still not be hungry. I'm so full, man. It is what it is.
Which is big with something that kind of occurred to me today, and I don't even remember why. I think I was watching Bumstead's interview he did with Fuad when he was on the Real Bodybuilding podcast, talking about, and between like a Bumstead, I can't remember that guy's name, and that's totally disrespectful to him. I think he might have won the Chicago. The guy with the top knot, the pink hair that Sean Ray was being a dick about. I swear.
Top knot and pink hair, it sounds like I should know. Sounds like it should be obvious who it is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Is it classic, dude?
I might have to look him up, because you showed him to me a long time ago and said literally he must have like light bones or something.
Brian Jones.
Yeah, because the Lord Lord Jones or whatever. I mean, dude looks huge, but can make that weight class. So I think the weird thing about classic physique is like you guys have to have double genetics. Like bodybuilders have to be able to have good genetics, but you have to have the genetics to look like a bodybuilder and be like 50 pounds lighter, but look like you're not. And is that an amount of hard work, or is that an amount of you just kind of need to be gifted?
It's a little bit of both, man. Like you do have freaks. Like I will say he's a freak, and some people might say I'm a freak for having a small waist, but bodybuilding is about sculpting, man. So it's more or less like a 60-40 kind of thing, because once you know that if you're constantly chasing an X frame, and especially if you come into the sport saying this is what I want a small waist and I want wide lats and I'm chasing that X frame, I feel like people that have that vision of creating that from the beginning have it a little bit easier, especially if they're starting their entire journey like that, you know what I mean? Because they're lifting in a certain way with that in mind. Like I'll say, my very first show I did physique, right? And then I did physique and classic, but I wanted to do classic. My body is not meant for physique anymore. You know what I mean? Although it would have been perfect for physique had I went that route, and it still would have been perfect for physique. And I'd probably be doing really well on pro circuit and physique today. But I chose classic. I started hammering legs. I started lifting and sculpting my body in a certain way because I wanted to create something different. So I'll say like 60-40, man. Genetics are there, but even people with thick waist can still, I guess create a really good classic look. It's just a little bit tougher, but we have plenty of them at the top of the game. You know what I mean?
which is
Like
one of
Wesley
some of the
Vissers, dude's got a thick waist, and what do you get? Like he was in the top 10, last year,
yeah,
right?
and he
Um,
his pictures lately have been looking just nuts, just nutty,
yeah, and I
like
think
a
he's
true Aaron to
shooting for top 5, top 6 this year, and he's got a thick waist, but he's always been, the old school bodybuilding. He knows exactly what he's trying to create, and he's creating that with a thick waist, and it looks good.
yeah.
So
It's definitely, which is kind of what you and I have talked about at plenty of times before with Classic. Just like when powerlifting started to become more mainstream, that's when the freaks come out, and that's where, you know, the what was it, Danny Garcia that won the first Classic Olympia? I'm trying to remember what his name was.
Danny Hester,
Danny
Danny
Hester.
Garcia is The Rock's ex-wife slash
Nice.
yeah. she's
But
that she's doing the whatever show that is they're doing next year, the Athleticon. Yeah.
yeah, Danny Hester, and now, I think Breon moving to that kind of thing of these, these Bumsteads, these Vissers, uh, these rough diesels, Jesus Christ, Steve Lorius, people that you can't. They're
Yeah,
very swiftly going to not be able to be beaten.
exactly. Yeah, like Steve Loris. I mean, that's genetics all day. That's
Yeah,
nuts. You know what I mean? So,
just like
but it's also hard work. I would be livid if somebody said, that my shape or anything was, oh, he's got good genetics. Guess,
yeah,
there it is. No, I mean, they bust their fucking ass, to
yeah.
get to even to create that shape or enhance or exaggerate those proportions. So, but they are gifted as well. But it's worth mentioning both for sure.
Which is funny. This leads to a little off topic. I don't think it's an offensive question, but one because I know you and I have been friends for a long time, and so we interact in a lot of the same forums, and so I see certain ways. And I remember a couple times that it was you had posted something, and someone had kind of alluded to like, well, it's easier for black guys to get in shape, or like to have a certain kind of shape, and it was something that I thought about a lot of like, I wonder, is bodybuilding beautiful because things like race are acknowledged in the way that they are, or is it like a problem? I mean, some people make it a problem, but in certain things where somebody can just say, like, they always talk about like Middle Eastern guys seem to have great backs and legs, and they just seem to be able to get like in shape like nobody else. Like just a real hardness the muscle, and like as far as like shape or like black guys being able to get more, more of this, more of that. Like, I don't know. How do you feel about how race is in bodybuilding, especially nowadays?
That's such a broad question. How do I feel like about how race is in bodybuilding?
Well, I guess I'll narrow it to saying like how do you feel about the way race can be talked about, almost objectively, I guess.
Yeah, because you got to think about it like this, man. When we look at, I love looking at bikini athletes, figure athletes, but when I'm looking at them in the context of, judging them, I love her physique, or, she looks nuts. It doesn't even cross my mind of thinking of them as like I don't know, as like attractive, like, oh, I want to, have
Right.
sex with her, or she's sexy. I guess, and I might be weird. That might just be weird. That might just be me, but yeah, I think it's the same thing when you're talking about race. When people say these things, or I feel like maybe they're just talking, objectively. I don't think it's like I guess it would come from the tone and the person that's saying it, but
Yeah.
I think it's an objective thing, man. I really do, because the ones that are really a part of the sport and that really are passionate about bodybuilding, they're looking at, striations in the shoulders. They're looking at, how grainy you look. They want to see lines in your glutes and stuff like that. And when they say, black guys have this, or, white guys have huge calves, or, stuff like that, I think it's an objective thing. I don't think it's like Asian people are good at math. You know what I mean? I don't think it's I don't think they're. I mean, there's probably a thin line, but I don't think it's.
Well, that's
I would say it's more objective.
What I find cool about it is, obviously, if you look at rewards, you can't really say bodybuilding is racist. I mean, the winningest bodybuilder of all time is a black guy. 3 of the, Haney got 8 Olympias. Ronnie got 8 Olympias. Phil has 7. Very likely going to get an 8th if he comes back and wants it. It's
Are
just really
both of
cool how
Phil's parents black?
I think he might be half. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, that would split it. That would that would make that invalid, I guess, kind of too, or even more valid. He's got the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Best of all worlds. Or whatever.
So I guess like in broad picture, you can't. Well, that's right. But like some of the things that people could say, I remember because this will segue in because we talked about Akeem. We've been talking about Akeem for years, and he has an issue or had an issue that seemed to affect a lot of Black American or Black competitors, where his skin was just really really thick. It was really difficult. I mean, Lionel Bayeki has kind of the same deal. It's just harder for them to get in shape. And I don't know what Bayeki does, but like we had talked about earlier with Akeem, you can't take this stupid, well, these new guys don't know how to suffer. Akeem fucking suffers. Like, you watch that Muscle Strength one, he was eating like a bikini competitor.
Have you seen that Patrick Johnson guy? That I think he's about to compete. But he's got the same skin, but he looks nuts. He's absolutely insane. Like, you know what I mean?
Crazy muscle bellies, crazy shape.
And he's a black guy with huge calves. You know what I mean? So
that's it.
Yeah. And then you got guys like Dorian Yates, who, Mr. Olympia. And then you got Arnold, Mr. Olympia. And you got, guys like Luke or James or, white guys too. So I think, and then you got Flex, Lewis, Mr. 212 Olympia several times over. So I don't know, I don't think any necessarily any race has an upper hand over the other, because I think some may tend to have an advantage in certain things, but also they're lacking in other things, and vice versa. And then there's always, and the guys that are at the top of the sport, no matter what race they are, they're like the 0.1% of whatever anyway,
Yeah.
So, I think those are the people we're talking about, the top of whatever genetics they happen to be in anyway. We're talking about like the top 20 to 30 bodybuilders on the entire surface of the planet. It's not a necessarily a good population to pick from, you know what I mean? To say, oh, these guys look like this or these guys look like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, it was off topic. I remember I was thinking, I want to say I was watching a bodybuilding at Bollocks a while ago while Luke was still alive, and they were talking about the differences. I think they were bringing up specifically how Middle Eastern, Egyptian and Iranian people seemed to just really be able to get like a gnarly kind of conditioning. You even see it in, India's coming up now really big as far as with bodybuilding competitors, and there's just something about they just can get this conditioning that you could not believe. I mean, it looks. You
got to think about environmental factors as well, man. The food that they get over there may not be, this is all guessing, but you got to think the food and the way they, the chemicals and stuff that we use and the way all the GMO genetically modified stuff that we consume over here, that's given people new diseases or certain weird things are going on. I think that can play into your body too over years and years, just the environment that you grow up in and the things that are available to you. It may not necessarily be strictly genetics. It may be what you're exposed to on a daily basis, the kind of rice you're eating on a daily basis since you've been born, the kind of chicken, so I think that could have something to do with it as well.
You see that even with the British competitors, because same deal. Most people, when they're honest, and now that the podcasts are all coming out, you're hearing about it a lot more. They'll talk about, the food in America is fucking dog shit. Like, it's just like you said, it's genetically engineered. I mean, it's full of hormones. It's just terrible because it's just, mass. You're trying to feed this huge mass of people, trying to do it in the most economically efficient way possible. So I guess that's the kind of stuff that you come up with. Because usually when you see really gnarly conditioning, especially with the bigger guys, like with the British guys, it's long been said, everybody's like, well, the only way they got that was by super heavy lifting, which, we've beaten that horse to death on this show just in a few episodes, where I don't necessarily think that's the case. I don't think you need to be able to squat 8 plates for 15 reps to, get your money's worth out of a leg workout and to get that same kind of look. You got guys that were insane. You got Cormier,
Jay
famously
Cutler. Jay
Jay
Cutler.
Cutler.
I'll just throw another Mr. Olympia in there. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? You know,
yeah,
so Phil, he does 10 sets of 10, or FST 7 style, training.
yeah,
It's not light by any means. He's outlifting both of us.
right.
But for him, that's not like the heavy, you got to do this to be a certain amount of graininess type of lifting. There's definitely exceptions to that. I think
Yeah,
maybe it's easier, or you can get that certain look quicker by doing that. But you got to think, guys like Branch, what kind of form was he using? He's using going pretty heavy, but you got to think the stuff that he's doing and the stuff that Hollinshead are doing are way different styles, and they
yes,
look completely different. They look the same,
yeah,
but on the same token, him and Johnny train together, and why isn't Johnny grainy as Branch?
yeah. If
All
they
that
trained
stuff
the
goes
yeah,
out of the window.
they trained the exact same, and Johnny had the legs that Johnny has, and Branch Warren. People talk a lot about Tom Platz for good reason, but Branch Warren's in that conversation of best legs in bodybuilding history.
Yeah,
Dude tore a quad and came back in 11 months and won the Arnold with
yeah,
downsized legs.
won the whole thing. Yeah,
His legs were so good that he could not train them for a year or not train them properly for a year and come back and win the Arnold. Like that's, but yeah, I remember because Fuad was talking about it, and I started looking at pictures and like, damn, James actually does kind of look like a Branch Warren. Like he's got that. I
I
mean,
think
he's obviously
I'll dare to say that he might have just surpassed him just now, and if he hasn't, I think next year I might need to see some comparison pictures. I think James might have got him. You know what I mean?
yeah, because I don't know, because obviously everything's up in the air right now because England apparently is going hardcore back into lockdown starting like this week. They had to move this show. Like it probably affected people's looks. I'm sure it probably affected his because they had to do it. It was what on Tuesday? It was supposed to be on the Saturday
Yeah,
or
it was
something.
Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah.
That's days that you'd have already started a carb load and been kind of looking at how you wanted to tweak things that are just gone. Like, hey, just compete as is. And everybody showed up pretty. We'll get to the England in a minute. We missed the Chicago after the last one. We had talked about the Chicago coming up, and I'm going to take my own journalistic face off for this. I have been on record multiple times saying I love Akeem. He's one of my favorite bodybuilders, definitely top three that I have all the faith in the world. I think I've literally said I could see him as being like a Ronnie. He's just got those muscle bellies and he's got the size. And I fucking just totally forgot he was doing the Chicago. Like
It's just been quiet, man. I don't think that's all your fault. He's been quiet, and then since the shows are kind of moving around this year, it's kind of like, oh, okay, the Chicago Pro is going to be in Atlanta, and it's this date now. Oh, the British show is going to be this date, and now it's in Asia. Now it's here. So I don't think that's all your fault. And he stays pretty under wraps compared to the other people that he was up against. You know what I mean?
yeah, I feel like since he started working with Oscar, obviously he's been improving, but Oscar's super quiet. Almost no updates. Oscar, he just seems like he has the most. I remember when I first, because I didn't know much about Oscar until I watched, I think it was Kai Green's Overkill, like a lot of those old school Kai Green videos where he's fucking strict incline pressing 495 with just ungodly fucking strong. It was funny. I remember I'm going all over the place because I got a lot of caffeine in me. Talking to Kai, I think Dana Lynn Bailey was talking because Jose had always said that Dana Lynn Bailey was her hardest workout. And they're asking her like who her hardest workout partner was, or who could keep up with her because she does a lot of cardio type stuff. She's like, yeah, Kai couldn't really keep up, but he's just so damn strong.
So who did she say could keep up?
It was some friend of hers, I think.
Okay, I was about to say I can't keep up with any of those people. I did like a short jog today, like, and I'm talking like 50 feet, and I was, I had to lay, I almost had to lay down.
I've seen.
I got asthma. I can't be doing this.
I have absolutely no shame in that. I've gotten a lot of good shoulder exercises from watching Dana Lynn Bailey. I've gotten a lot of good hamstring exercises by watching Dana Lynn Bailey. I mean, the chick is a monster. I mean, really, really hardcore in the gym.
The machine, man.
All that to say, that's how I knew about Oscar Ardo. But yeah, since he's gotten with Oscar, just more in terms of, these new guys don't want to suffer. Dude drives like 3 hours sometimes home from the gym to go work out with Oscar. And I was just so happy that this year he finally got it. In 2019, he had like 3 or 4 of these heartbreaker second places, just barely got edged out. He finally, in the best way possible. It was his last chance. It was the only competition he was doing, and he pulled it out. And I've honestly thought, I remember in 2019, I thought I know it's heartbreaking because you didn't get the qualification, but some competitors like a Regan Grimes will get better the more shows they do. By like third or fourth show, they're really locked in. They're looking lethal. To me, that's not Akeem. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm looking at things the wrong way, but I feel like he just gets a little bit off, a little bit off, a little bit off. But like because it's so hard to peak him correctly and to land that plane, I don't know. I feel like the more times they try in 1 year, but then again, he also had a lot of bad luck in 2019. But
yeah, man, I think he won. Well, even though he came in second place, I can't remember his placings, but I think he did. It might have been him and Juan were like first and second. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, that was in Brazil, right?
I had him winning. Huh?
I think that was Brazil.
I can't remember any specifics, but when people get second place in these shows, I mean, like you're like, ooh, what's the difference between first, second, and third in some of these things? And how far apart was the judging? Was it a split decision? If somebody wins by 1 point, that may mean some of the other judges might have seen Akeem winning, or Akeem may have been winning during prejudging and then lost later, or vice versa.
Right.
So I think, if I can't remember, because it was but I think last year was the first year I noticed him just nailing it. I thought he did great compared to what he had brought previously, like you said, ever since he's been with Oscar. And I think he's pretty much continued to be, I think maybe beforehand he had been 85 to 90%. And I think now he's more or less hitting, 90 to 95%, anywhere within that range. So I think he's been doing all right. Yeah,
shots you. Bam.
Geez, Louise and cheese, right? So
for me personally, I think in the IFBB, nobody beats Akeem from the side. Maybe Phil. I love the dude's side shots. I mean, that is art.
I'm having trouble combating you on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just unbelievable. Just nutty. It's got, see. Oh, that's a good shot from the Chicago. Look at that.
Yeah.
Just nicest guy in the world. Couldn't have been happier for him. But so anyways, the drama of the Chicago Pro, because there's always got to be drama. Nick Walker. Of course. Nick Walker, here's him in the top 3. But he finished 4th behind Max Charles. And the big thing was, did he deserve 4th, or did he deserve 3rd, or did he deserve higher? I think he got 3rd. I don't think he beat Justin. I don't think he beat Akeem. I think the thing with Nick that a lot of people weren't taking into account, that I've heard somebody say, and you and I have had this discussion before, was that in the amateurs, he looked, he's Nick Walker. I mean, he's huge either way. The dude he's a top pro to be talked about. But when you get up in against guys like Akeem and like Justin, that mass doesn't make you special anymore. Now you're going against.
He is still freaky. It doesn't make him special, but the fact that he came up there and he hung with him like he did. I mean, it's hard to say that he didn't beat Justin, to me. And and it's hard to say if he came in, if he got second, I wouldn't have batted an eyelash. I would have just said, cool. I would have been like, yep, I see it,
To clarify, because I don't at all want to make it sound like I'm shitting on Nick, even gently. What I mean is he can't only rely on just how big he is now, because now he's in the pros. Now find a back shot of him and Justin, and so I'll say the conditioning, I'll say the conditioning was there. It wasn't a size contest. You're right. They're all huge, but that back shot, those hammies were the best on stage, and I think his
is back. I mean, I don't know, man. If I wish we could find that his backlat spread and his rear double. I think it was crispier. But I will say Justin surprised me this year, and he's super impressive. I think he looked absolutely insane out of his mind, but also Nick, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can't take anything away from any of these guys because the level of competition is just so high.
That's a pretty nasty back shot.
Yeah, I don't think he missed anything as far as conditioning. I think him and Matt, were spot on. I don't know what they counted against them, but it would have to be something like, was it the varicose veins? When you have to mention varicose veins as possibly being why he didn't do as well, that means that you did damn good. You know what I mean? If you're reaching for stuff like that. So I don't know, man. He looked great. I got nothing to take from him.
I think Justin's got maybe a more impressive back, maybe on his back, but as far as the lower half, he's got Justin beat. Let's look at Akeem.
Which splits the decision,
Right. Akeem's a little tougher. He's I think Akeem.
He did not. Akeem the hams. Akeem's hams versus Nick's hams. I mean, Nick got him on that too, and Akeem has those super high insertions. So
I don't mind the high lat insertions personally. I
don't mind them either.
I think Nick got his glutes in tighter, but I don't think he beat Akeem's hamstrings. Like, don't look at the glutes, just look at the hamstrings. Keep losing Akeem. I think their hamstrings are super comparable, and this indent. I think his glutes are, maybe almost as shredded as Akeem can get them. You can see the indents, but I just think, and then God damn it, all this to say that
you okay over there? You all right over there?
So him versus Justin, I think he could beat him, but the main drama was this is Max Charles, who I do not want to sound like I'm shitting on Max Charles because I feel like he's gotten some bad rubs this year so far. But
he definitely did.
Max did not beat Nick Walker this show.
No, this show no.
And it's just, I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. That's about right. I mean, that's right, man. It was a really good show. It was really tough. It's hard to say, what happened. It's one of those things where you don't want to be like, oh, it was politics. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, they just want him to, earn his stripes, pay his dues first. That's why I didn't give it to him. And then you could also think, well, this was Akeem's only show. Maybe he won because this was it. They wanted them to do the that's all conspiracy theory type stuff. You know what I mean? It's hard to
best of my ability. I know I've come out in front of this as a fanboy, so I've got just no journalistic integrity here. I truly do not think he beat Akeem. I know he beat Max. I think there's a good argument that he beat Justin, but I think Akeem got him. Because the way I was going with that as far as the mask not separating him anymore is now he's got to go against mask guys with shape. I think the only knock that you can really legitimately have against Nick is he's just real blocky, real straight up and down. He's working on it. I think if he can keep working on it for a couple of years, it's going to get gross. I mean, Rolly brought his waist in, so obviously Nick Walker can. And then it's going to be a lot harder. Then you're going to have to grasp at straws. Like, well, he's got those varicose veins on his shins, and that's ugly as hell. Like, really.
Yeah, I mean,
really.
I'm happy Akeem won. And my hands are up in the air on this one. You know what I mean? It's like, I think they could have all been like this, and I would have kind of accepted it or wrapped my mind out of a few different outcomes with that top 3, top 4.
But what's funny, talking about, because you talk about politics, and I don't know, you could say, well, they want to make him earn his stripes. Well, what about Hunter? You know, Hunter got Tampa. There was like a little bit of drama, and if Nick had showed up at Tampa looking like that and didn't beat Hunter, there would have been something.
Well, was it the same set of judges? You know,
Well, yeah, was it the
it
same?
could have been a different set of judges can feel different sort of ways. You know,
did Hunter strategically pick an easier show? There's no other way to say it. I mean, I think the Chicago line was a little deeper. Maybe not like just names being deeper, but as far as people showing up, I think Chicago was a harder show than Tampa was.
Yeah. So if I'm thinking Hunter in the Chicago lineup, would Hunter have beat Akeem Williams and Justin? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. You know, so yeah, I would say Chicago was tougher for sure. I think Hunter won his show very fair and square against Ian. I mean, that was pretty much open and shut. So,
because this year was weird. Like, there's not a lot of, for the longest time, you'd pick one of these, because it's a smaller show. It's a pro show. So it's, what is to say, are the Indy and the Tampa small shows? Or are they just not? Is anything that isn't the New York Pro a small show? So who can say? But it's historically one of those shows that every now and then somebody will come out for. Like, you'll be going in feeling confident, then suddenly Dexter's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do the Tampa," and you're like, "Shit!" I guess I got.
Well, he lives in Florida. Somebody should have saw that,
right?
Yeah.
He's prepping for this Olympia, trying to make his last bid, which this time
his leg's been coming up, man. He lost a little luster, maybe 2 years ago. Looked better last year. I think he's gonna. I think he figured it out,
man. That
new fit, and then I know he got his stomach might have gotten slightly distended. Still the blade, but I think his stomach was starting to get distended, and he fixed that. He hopped on that. I think he saw a gut specialist and got everything right.
Yeah, he's got some kind of product coming out apparently. I think it's how he's going to start trying to make his. I mean, he doesn't need to make money after his career. He's been one of the best as far as promoting himself and making sure he's got a good nest.
When you're the most winningest, I think you should have something stashed.
Yeah,
I think that
Jesus.
I think he's all right.
He'll be doing just fine. But so that was the last, because Europa, the Spain show, was what we covered. That was before Chicago. Chicago is the last one, I believe, to qualify for the Olympia. So we can cover the Britain a little bit, but that's a qualifier for 2021. Because that's the big thing everybody keeps saying about James is like, motherfuckers qualified for the 2021 and the 2020 hasn't even happened yet. But obviously the Britain was a sentimental thing. They dedicated the show to the memory of Luke Sando. He was on all the promotional things. And they have the pictures of, James doing the kneel down.
Yeah.
And he does
that was pretty cool, man.
He does that front lat spread like Luke, which is fun because he did it as a tribute to Luke, and Luke did it as a tribute to Dorian. The whole front lat looking to the side.
Yeah.
Because that's obviously a classic Dorian Yates pose. But I got some. Let me share this again. Got some pictures from that.
I use that pose myself. Not gonna lie, that's one of my faves.
It's the way you got to do it sometimes, man.
Yeah.
That's the kneeling down. Just a really beautiful sentiment.
That was awesome to see, man.
I love.
And he looked really good at that show too.
He just started doing this pose, I think, at Spain this year, and it's such a good one. A little spinning. Here's a good picture of the top four. That back spread.
I was super impressed with all these guys, man. Mark Hector, that freaking shape. Regan stepped his game up from the last one he was in. Was it Jamie? The 6'5" dude?
Yeah, a.k.a. the Giant. 6'5". Yeah. Just nuts. Just nutty. Regan.
6'5" to fill out. He's still got to fill out his frame. Still, but that's just like, damn, you feel bad for him because it's like, that's not his fault. That's gonna, to fill out that frame is different. I'm only 6'1", and it's, you're what, 6'1", right? 6'2"?
Yeah, I'm 6'1".
6'1". I mean, we know how it is to fill out the frames like that, man. So it's just, so for him to be where he is and hanging like that, that's nuts.
I've heard tales, man, that he has to do pizza 2 to 3 times a week because he's 295 pounds, I think, on stage. But Mark Hector, I'd give him 2 years, I don't know who's going to stop him.
Yeah, I give him 2 years, and he
He's,
he's trouble for absolutely every single person. Yeah.
he looked awesome at the Spain. I'm trying to see if they have pictures of that. But
You
anyways,
know, he's got some leg gaps to fill is probably the most obvious thing.
yeah,
But of course, the shape is just major, and his posing could be the tiniest bit better. But I can't take it. I really can't take anything away from the dude. He looks great, and I think he was about to do was it Romania or the next show, but I think him and Abdullah decided to shut it down, which is probably all right. You know, go ahead and start growing, man, because
that's what.
he definitely made his statement. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think he needs to do that, and I think Samson need to just
Okay, yeah, yeah.
shut it down and grow, because I can't even find a good picture of Samson from this show, and I know Samson always looks good. There's never a time when Samson just looks like ass or anything.
Samson got screwed this year, man, because just hearing how he had to deal with hearing how he had to deal with COVID.
Yeah,
Nice. It was a little bit different than how everybody else had it. Not everybody else, but I think his shows were getting canceled like the week of, like during peak week, his show got canceled like something like that, like twice. So it's like, man, you didn't get to grow. You could have spent all that time growing or hit the show and then started growing again. I think he kind of, just drew a bad card. Nice.
he's just on the borderline. If I got to say one thing, oh, that's a nice back double. Him and Patrick have been playing it real close to like borderline spilling over.
No, it was a little blurred. He was a little blurred from the pictures. We were looking at, nobody was there. But yeah, he was blurred. I mean, it's like they pushed for fullness, but of course, another thing is, like you said, I don't know what happened with the schedule. That could have had something to do with it, but I think he was blurred just because compared to the other guys like Mark, I don't think he was. I don't think Mark was, and I think Regan was even tighter, which makes me think, okay, I can't base it just off the pictures. I think maybe he was the tiniest bit off.
That's how I base it, because I know a lot of people are always, your regular people that come in a little off are always like, well, the pictures tell, that's not the right story. Well, it probably makes you look worse than you did, absolutely. But comparatively, like you just said, like if a Mark Hector and a Regan look diced to the bone with the same quality of pictures, then you don't look that doesn't make you. Anyway, he wasn't, off.
When you are James specifically, specifically James, and you are nutty and grainy and dry and crazy, weeks leading up to it and days leading up to it, and we see it, and then you come on stage and you're not quite there, then I think they just missed the mark, but obviously not enough to hurt them. But to say that was James' best, no, it wasn't. So and that's okay. You know what I mean?
As a pro, I know you've got eyes that I don't have. Something about like Regan. I think at this point, Regan, as far as conditioning, beat James. And he's got width. And in the front, he's actually looks almost wider than James does. But somehow, even looking at that, with James kind of caving his shoulders in, you can tell even from the front that James is thicker than Regan is.
Yeah, Regan has kind of like, although he's kind of been doing it for a minute now, it's still like, I don't want to call it baby muscle at all. That would be the wrong thing to say. But it's not quite as matured as James. And I think, and I think Regan, looking at these pictures, he doesn't look much taller, but he is taller. So I think he's still, for his frame and him being so wide, I think that can create certain gaps. I think he still has something to fill out, because he looks nutty when he's by himself. It's really only whenever he's next to these other guys that you notice anything. But I think he owned this one, man. I think he did really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so when you're talking about, like, so the back shot, for instance, hammies were on point, but the back the thickness. You got James Traps trying to scream through his skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're 4D.
For some
They're
reason,
coming out. They're coming out of the screen, and Regan doesn't quite have that thickness. It's a certain thickness. I don't want to say density, but maybe a thickness or density underneath the skin there that is just gonna take a little bit of time. That's all.
Something about that was a good shot. Didn't mean to go back to that one. I don't know if I'm wrong. I have to be, but because you were talking about his traps, like I've never seen somebody like James where they have a split. Let's see if this has his back double. Like a split in the traps. I've never seen that.
Right. So I mean, he's overdeveloped. Like, there's no such thing as that. But I guess we are. We're all super physiological with your bodybuilder, but
yeah.
But I mean, that's super overkill, and it's nutty to look at, and that's why I think that is why he takes it. You can't. That's hard work. You can't fake that. That's not genetics. That's being nutty.
But okay. So James won the England, well deserved. I don't really know much about the 212 for the British, but as far as the Chicago, that's a little bit of drama on the 212 because obviously Keown won it. Let's see if I can bring up some pictures. You could say comfortably. He definitely, I'd say he won. There's no question about him winning, but I think there's probably some people on that stage that maybe held their own more than anybody would have expected them to.
Austin Carr looked really good at that show. That was what I left with. Everybody knew Keown was gonna probably win. Everybody knew Keown was gonna look nuts. That's a given. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as far as conditioning, Austin got him. You know what I mean?
Right.
That wasn't enough to win, unfortunately. Or fortunately, if depending on how you're looking at it, it just wasn't quite enough to win.
That looks like a straight up potato, but.
So it's like maybe Keown it's just shape thing. It was very close. You can
see if I can get it. Because I think what everybody was saying is from the back is where you can really see that Keown had some work he had to do. But it still looks pretty good. I think he's not doing as much with his legs.
I think his glutes might have been a little saggy, a little bit. And I think that's something he would agree with too.
I mean, he's got Dorian as his coach behind him. I mean, they know obviously how that's going to go. But so anyway,
they're professionals, man. They're he's one of the best in the world. They're all really good guys. They know, they see it just like we do.
So the big drama, obviously, he won the show and now has dropped out of the Olympia.
Which sucks so I think that kind of sucks for Austin Carr because he's not going. He got second and then it's like, oh, I wanted to win so you. It's kind of like I wanted to win so you couldn't go. Like specifically, I just wanted to make sure I didn't want to go. I just wanted you not to go. I wonder how he feels about that.
Yeah,
that just kind of sucks in general, but.
And so I mean, because I'm not going to crap on Keown. I mean, obviously he's a grown ass man. Who am I to assess anybody's mental state if you feel like it's too much pressure, which I'm sure it is. It's a goddamn Olympia. And it's, since he's moved up to the 212, there's been that spotlight on him and everything kind of happening for him really, really fast. But, would I have done the Olympia? I mean, it's with somebody like a Keown, he's 24, I think. And he looks like you can't say, well, you never know how many of these invites you're going to get. He's going to get as many as he wants to get. I mean, he's going to compete and win another one. And, you'll see him on that stage eventually.
Several. So he's going to win several, yeah.
But
he's going to win several Olympias, not several shows, you know what I mean? So he'll be all right. I think he's capable of it anyway. If you just look at the evidence, if you're trying to do if you're looking at it like a science standpoint, just look at the evidence. How big has he gotten and how much nastier has he gotten with the time he's had, and given that same amount of time next year, and why would he not make that same amount of crazy progress? You know, just whenever you think he can't, you know, there's no way, you know, he can make such great progress in such a small amount of time. Boom, he outdoes himself. Boom, he outdoes himself again. And then he just, how much was the weight difference? I think it was like 30 pounds difference in the same year. Didn't he compete at the Arnold in Classic?
I think so. I want to say it was around 20 pounds of difference in stage.
And that's the same year. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, 20 pounds of muscle in the same year. What about next year? What? You know, what? So, I mean, if he gets 10 pounds of muscle and comes in more refined, that's, you know, he's going to be knocking at the door of the open class, which sounds crazy. So,
Dude, it does.
You know, I think for you know, I think he can for sure win 212 Olympias, a few, before he moves up. You know,
I think he'll. I don't think.
George is going to be in the way for sure. Yeah. George is there. George is in the way. But we have to go off of, I think,
George
will have better conditioning, but I don't think his shape can get any better. Well, no, I don't want to say that. I don't think his shape can get better than Keon's shape, is what I mean to say. So you know, yeah, go ahead.
I think of the two of them, George probably should move to the open more. Just keep on moving, because I don't like you said it pretty well. I don't think he can change. The only way he can change his shape is to get bigger. You know, carefully get bigger. He's never going to be a 260-pound bodybuilder, but I think he could carry 225, 230 on stage and look just deadly. But I think of the two of them, Keon probably will move up. I don't see, especially working with Gasp, you know, training with those guys, like he's going to get bigger. He's going to keep growing. But like, because, you know, you wanted to talk about the Olympia meetups, and that was one I was excited about, to see George versus Keon, because that would be where George, I think for a couple of years, George will get Keon on conditioning. But
he'll get everybody on conditioning. He had everybody on conditioning Classic. Yeah. You know, if you look at you know, the Arnold or the last Olympia, it'll be Breon's conditioning is right there, but you know, on the day of, it's right there, but it's like George's conditioning, and I would say they're ooh, you know, it's really close. You know, but George's conditioning, man, oof. I don't think anybody's beating that. You know, nobody's really beating it. I'll say Breon has come equal to it, and Breon's conditioning is out of this world. But also, you know, does it beat George's conditioning? No, but nobody's. I don't think anyone really can.
The best conditioning, and you know, easily one of the best backs in the IFBB. So now we talk about, you know, you take Keon out of the equation. So now we're talking about, can Ahmad, can he keep it? Can he keep this 212 Olympia title?
No.
I don't think so. He's at the Dragons.
You said Ahmad Ashkenani?
No, it's
are you thinking about
it's El Granani.
Kamal. You're talking about Kamal.
Jesus Christ. Kamal El Granani.
Kamal, no. Maybe. No, maybe. I don't know, man. Maybe.
I mean, the dude is not a slouch. I mean, he looked great. I know, you know, he's been posting his stuff. Let's see if I can find some at the Dragons lair. But let's see here. I know he has like a post.
Age and shape, man. Age and shape, and that's why. And it's not, you know, I talk so bluntly about these guys, and I look up to every single one of them, like huge, big time. So I think that's worth throwing in there. But yeah, I think
I don't think pants on. But anyways, man. So we got that happening. May have to make this a two-parter. I got to go help my wife with some stuff with the baby.
All right, sounds good, man. Glad you hit me up, bro.
Oh, totally, dude. we're gonna have to do another one real soon because now we got to talk about Olympia predictions for the Open. Got to talk, more about Coach Corner stuff. We got a lot of stuff we got to discuss.
All right, sounds good.
All right, dude.
Just holla at me.
Totally.
Later.
Yeah.